We are going to work on your journey to visionary exploration, and we're going to talk about the courage to dream. It is important to know that in each and every moment of our life we have choice, and there's no right or wrong choice. Each one heads us down a path of experiences at each moment that we can redirect our path. So some might take a long and winding journey, and others take the main highway. But both journeys take us to the same direction. That of learning the lessons we set up for ourselves to experience in this lifetime for our soul's growth. And our choices allow us to have a quality of life that we envision for ourselves by making the most of our circumstances and seeing the beauty in each situation. Whether we perceive it as good or bad, but only seeing it as an experience fulfilling why we are here: to love, to learn, to grow, and to discover who we truly are and how we can express our gifts and talents as part of the greater world unfolding before us. I want to share a visionary exploration, a story about choice. There once was a man named Chris. When he was a baby, his mother accidentally tipped his wheelchair over, and Chris fell onto the wood stove, landing on his hands. It disfigured his hands for the rest of his life. They were all curled up and gnarled, and he mostly only had the use of his 2 index fingers and thumbs. But Chris was a determined young man, and he was accepted into the army and became a bugler. He led the army in battle, playing with his gnarled fingers. Chris was also given the job of peeling potatoes. In his later years, Chris would sit around telling stories about his life. He said, "Now, peeling potatoes came with no dignity, but it saved my life. I learned while I was peeling all those potatoes to feel and make use of the movement I did have in my hands. So the potatoes and the bugle kept his fingers supple and agile when they would normally have stiffened and curled." Chris left the army and returned to his hometown of Choiceland. He married, had a family, and worked on a farm. He amazed people with his dexterity, how he could do all normal tasks in daily life with those disfigured hands. He lived a full, happy life into his old age, and he used his life to the best of his ability. There was also another man named Ole. He also went to war. He was injured during the war, shot in his left arm. Ole also returned to the same hometown of Choiceland, and he lived in a boarding house all his life. He used to go downtown in his old age and tell stories at the coffee shop of how horrible the war was when he was a young man. He never really did anything more with his life, but continued to relive the horrors he experienced in that war. So which man do you think was living his soul's journey? Both. Both were having their human experience, learning lessons on their soul's journey. And both had the same number of angels and guides following them through their life, and the same number greeted them when they crossed over to the other side of the veil. The shaman believes that it's not the event that creates the wounds in our life. It is the story we build around it. When we perceive our story as a traumatic experience, it creates wounding in our energy field. Trauma is not what happens to us. It is how we remember what happens to us, how we were wounded, abandoned, neglected, or violated. Then we weave terrible stories around these wounds, and they continue to haunt us. But we can learn to look at our stories from the level of the soul's journey and take the hero's journey by dreaming our world into being. It is said there are 2 kinds of people, those that are dreamers and those that are being dreamed. The dreamers are those who consciously create the world they wish to live in, and those being dreamed are living in a nightmare that the collective dreams have created. For example, living the American dream is a collective dream. Having the family, the career, and the lifestyle is a common dream that most of us chase, without ever giving any thought to why we are chasing it so desperately. This is an opportunity to re-examine what is important in our lives. Is going to work just to pay the bills, to buy a huge house we're too busy to spend time in, or the expensive toys or vacations we're striving to afford that we really want? The philosopher Socrates warned, "Beware of the barrenness of a busy life." The wisdom keepers of the indigenous tribes believe that we can access the power of dreaming our world by raising our consciousness. It's only when we experience our connection to infinity that we are able to dream powerfully. It takes courage to taste infinity, but when you learn to experience the power of dreaming, you begin to see your life unfold in perfect synchronicities. You'll be able to release all the stories holding you captive, feeling trapped and unhappy, and venting in your therapist's chair. We are all trapped in a collective nightmare, which is characterized by the lack of courage and originality. As humans, we seem to need a sense of security that familiarity provides, and we long to fit in, to feel like we belong somewhere, and it is a very common tendency to fear the unknown. You can stop engaging in futile efforts and being fearful of change, but you must make a radical shift in your perceptions. No self-help course showing what you ought to do has the ability to make such powerful shifts for you. You have to reclaim your power to dream boldly and courageously, and walk on your path consciously by stepping into infinity. Most of us aren't looking to reach a permanent state of enlightenment where we sit in meditation all day and know that we're free of all issues and that we're at peace at all times. We're here as human beings, living a human life which is messy and unexpected, and we make mistakes and we keep trying over and over again. We're here to experience the deep range of human emotions and experiences. But when we start dreaming our world, we say we want to exist within and live the life that we are dreaming that we want to live. One reason we're reluctant to access our courage in our dreaming is that we believe that courage takes sacrifice, when really lack of courage, staying stuck in our comfort zone, actually is the sacrifice. It sacrifices our convictions, our hopes, our dreams, and in the end, we often pay dearly for giving up what we most value. Courage can take us beyond our petty human emotions and allow us to live authentically, standing up for our values and convictions, even when it's uncomfortable to do so. When you begin to practice the process of dreaming, you begin the process on your inner landscape first, before you notice your outer world change. The dramatic inner shifts will occur inside quietly as you make choices to reject the unreasonable expectations of your family, your culture, and then you begin to let go of the need to be secure, accepted, or admired, and you admit when you feel unsafe, insecure, or unsuccessful. But soon you will start to see the universe mirroring your inner change back to you by altering the circumstances around you. When you draw upon your soul's courage, you have the opportunity to look at your life very differently, and you can create a very different life for yourself. When you practice this courage, you will see your life transform right before your eyes. Any of us can access the power of intent. What is difficult is to do it wisely. Our personal will is the mechanism which we use to try to force the world to conform to what we want. Dreaming through intent allows you to access unseen resources so that the universe actively conspires on your behalf and gives you opportunities for soul growth and expression of your gifts and talents, rather than staying caught up in what it will give to you. So we can learn to work with all the levels of engagement by shifting our perceptions. The levels of engagement are the level of serpent, which is at the literal, and it's 99% words. There's very little feelings, impressions, or emotions. The second level is the level of jaguar. This is a little more symbolic. It has less words and more pictures or images or feelings that it represents something else in our life. The third level is the level of hummingbird. This is the level of the mythic, further from language, more invoking the mental and the soul's journey, the heart and the mind blending together to create an epic journey. The highest level of engagement is the level of eagle. This is where we work at the energetic. It's a place we honor and we turn things over to spirit. There are really very few words. You may have had an experience where you felt this for just a moment, when you had a feeling that you were trying to express and no words would come, but the feeling was so powerful. That is the level of the energetic, and that is the level of eagle. So I want to talk about a little bit more in depth about each of these levels of engagement. The first level, the serpent consciousness at the level of serpent is the physical level of reality, where we operate purely on instinct. There's very little thought or emotion, just the instinct to survive. This can be very helpful in states of emergency, where we need to operate on instinct when we sense danger and we respond spontaneously. But staying stuck in this level of reality, there is no dream to organize the reality. It's simply action. And in our Western society, most people stay at the first two levels of consciousness 90% of the time. At the physical level, we can be practical. It's easy to practice tough love or to have a tell it like it is attitude. We identify with a problem, we take action, and there's no need to look more closely. This level of engagement at serpent, the first level of the literal, is very useful when needing to take action. It gets the job done. By working in this state, we don't panic about our seemingly hopeless situation. We work in this state to act out the physical steps to achieve our dreams at higher levels of consciousness. The second level of consciousness is that of jaguar. The state of jaguar is the level that we think and feel. The brain is operating in alpha waves, which is associated with meditation and relaxation, and the state of awareness just as we are falling asleep or waking up. Operating at the level of jaguar helps us to manifest our dreams as we use our mind and emotions to carry out our intent. It may mean having the daring to change our minds about something that we have previously taken for granted. This state of consciousness is where we may express moral courage. It allows us to stand up for our convictions, even at the risk of rejection or ridicule. We act out our bravery despite personal discomfort. It gives us emotional and intellectual courage. It allows us to open up beyond our judgments and personal desires to act on behalf of the good of others. It brings us to the state of openness and awareness. But we must act on it, or we could be stuck in sameness or lost in fantasy, never acting on our plans. All too often, we believe our minds are so clever that we can think our way out of a problem, or let our emotions rule us and block ourselves from the bigger picture of our life. Staying stuck in our thoughts and emotions can leave us trapped in the struggle of unconscious patterns of victim, perpetrator, or rescuer. We want to dream at a higher state of consciousness to move beyond these deeply ingrained patterns. Indulging in our emotions at the level of Jaguar and obsessing about how we feel while devoting so much time to exploration can be just about as paralyzing as being unaware of why we do what we do. Self-reflection serves its purpose, but we don't want to stay there and indulge in emotional upheaval. It's only a start to your journey of doing your personal work. Imagine what your world would be like if you let go of your dogma or rigid beliefs and your obsession with your emotional response to situations. The third level of engagement is the hummingbird consciousness. The level of hummingbird is associated with theta brainwaves, the state that occurs with light sleep or daydreaming. It's a profoundly creative state, and this is where we begin to do our conscious dreaming. Here we are operating at the level of heart and soul. The hummingbird is the symbol of motion and stillness in motion. We see the epic journey of the great traveler and how each of us is unique on this journey. At this level, we can step back from our problems and begin to see each problem as an opportunity to deepen our spiritual experience of spirit. We can look at our life as a journey of discovery and growth, and we can begin to see how events in our life are woven together in a synchronistic tapestry, such as how being laid off from a job is the perfect beginning to start your own business doing what you were really inspired to do. And we can begin to operate with courage to take the epic journey of our life, just like the tiny hummingbird, trusting that all we need will be provided. It takes great courage to perceive letting go of an old dream that we've embraced failure or accepted failure. Rather, it's a brave act of giving birth to your new self. Dreaming at the level of hummingbird and having courage at this level could mean following your calling today in some way, despite the facts in your life that you do not see today how it could possibly change. The highest level of engagement is the eagle consciousness. At the level of eagle, the brain waves are in the delta state, which is how our brain operates when we're asleep, which is why this state is the highest level of dreaming our world. Eagle is the highest level of perception where we can see the big picture and the smallest detail at the same time. Just as an eagle flying high over a mountain can see the whole horizon, but can also see the tiny mouse in the field that it's hunting. This is the domain of spirit. When we access this state, we can see the timelessness in everything, and immerse ourselves into a greater awareness. In the state of eagle consciousness, we're aware of the infinite forces in the universe. We can be creative and draw inspiration from that of source or spirit. We can access a perspective that is far beyond our personal experience. In this state of creativity, we can explore the imaginings far beyond the limitations of our mind and its inventive powers. And we move beyond conformity to society, culture, or fearful human limitations. This is the state where we want to do our spiritual work. It's difficult to stay in this state for a prolonged period of time, but just like using your muscles, the more you practice it, the more you'll be able to engage at this level with relative ease. And when we experience eagle consciousness, we can bring that wisdom down into the lower levels of perception and apply it into our everyday lives. As we learn to look at our life in a very different way from that of the grander vision of our soul's journey, and we have the opportunity to empower ourselves to live courageously and the potential to nurture ourselves with the gift of gratitude. Gratitude helps us stop looking at our lives as if we were in a nightmare and keep us trapped in our should-do list. Gratitude reminds us of what we most value and inspires us to step out of our ingrained habits and old patterns and really step into a life we truly wish to create, one of authenticity, originality, and creativity. When we look at the bigger picture surrounding the stories we create in our lives, we can stop racing around, keeping ourselves busy and distracted with meaningless activities, and truly start living the life we really want. We become a person of higher consciousness who walks in the world with love and compassion for others. One who walks in beauty, joy, and peace. I wish this for you. May you be blessed.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star,